Rome burns, plague ravages the empire, barbarian hordes press against the frontiers. In his tent on the Danube frontier, the most powerful man in the world sits alone, writing by candlelight. Marcus Aurelius, emperor of Rome, faces the collapse of everything he knows. Yet his words betray no panic, no despair. Instead, he writes, "You have power over your mind, not outside events. Realize this, and you will find strength." This is not the voice of a man in denial. This is the voice of a Stoic. And in that moment, as an empire trembles, an ancient philosophy reveals its true power. What you are about to discover changed the course of human history. It transformed slaves into philosophers, emperors into sages, and ordinary people into unbreakable forces of nature. It survived the fall of Rome, guided the founding fathers of America, and today influences everyone from Navy SEALs to Silicon Valley executives. This is the story of Stoicism, the philosophy that teaches us not just how to live, but how to remain human when everything falls apart. Athens, 300 BCE. The Golden Age is over. Alexander the Great is dead, his empire shattered. Greek city-states lie broken under foreign rule. In this world of chaos and uncertainty, a merchant named Zeno of Citium loses everything in a shipwreck. Stripped of his fortune, he wanders into a bookshop in Athens and discovers the teachings of Socrates. In that moment of total loss, he finds something infinitely more valuable than gold. Zeno begins teaching in the Stoa Poikile, the painted porch of Athens. His followers become known as Stoics, but this is not just another philosophical school debating abstract ideas. This is a survival manual for the human condition. The Stoics ask the most fundamental question of all. In a world where everything can be taken from you, what can never be lost? Their answer reshapes civilization itself. They discover that external circumstances, no matter how devastating, cannot touch the citadel of the mind. Your house can burn, your loved ones can die, your empire can fall, but your response to these events, your judgments about them, your character in facing them, this remains yours alone. This is the Stoic revelation that will echo through 2,000 years of human history. Stoicism rests on 3 fundamental principles, each one a weapon against the chaos of existence. The first pillar, the dichotomy of control. Life divides into 2 categories, things you control and things you do not. You control your thoughts, your decisions, your character. You do not control other people, natural disasters, or the past. The Stoic focuses all energy on the first category and accepts the second with serenity. This sounds simple. It is not. It requires rewiring the deepest patterns of human thought. The second pillar, virtue as the sole good. Health, wealth, reputation. The Stoics call these indifferent. They can be preferred, but they are not good or evil in themselves. Only virtue is good. Only vice is evil. This means a virtuous person in poverty is happier than a corrupt person in luxury. This means death itself cannot harm you if you face it with courage. This principle transforms martyrs into heroes and heroes into legends. The third pillar, living according to nature. But this is not about returning to the forest. For Stoics, human nature is reason itself. To live according to nature means to live rationally, to fulfill your role in the cosmic order, to recognize your connection to all humanity. The Stoic sees themselves as a citizen of the world, bound by duty to serve the common good. These principles create something unprecedented in human philosophy, a system that promises not happiness, but something far more precious, unshakable peace of mind in the face of any adversity. Epictetus is born a slave in the brutal world of imperial Rome. His name literally means acquired one, a piece of property. His master cripples his leg, leaving him permanently lame. By every measure of Roman society, he is worthless. Yet Epictetus discovers something his masters never possess: true freedom. He learns that while they can chain his body, they cannot chain his mind. While they can control his circumstances, they cannot control his responses to those circumstances. In the depths of slavery, Epictetus becomes freer than any emperor. When finally freed, he becomes one of history's greatest teachers. His lectures survive in fragments that read like battle plans for the soul. No one can hurt you without your permission, he teaches. It's not things that upset us, but our judgments about things. He shows his students that suffering comes not from events themselves, but from the stories we tell ourselves about those events. Epictetus proves that Stoicism is not a philosophy for the privileged. It is a philosophy for anyone who refuses to surrender their inner freedom to external circumstances. His teachings spread through the Roman world like wildfire, reaching eventually to the highest throne in the empire. Marcus Aurelius never asked to rule the world. Born into privilege, educated in philosophy, he dreams of a life devoted to wisdom and contemplation. Instead, fate hands him absolute power over 60 million souls. The burden nearly breaks him. Wars rage on multiple fronts. Plague decimates the population. His own son rebels against him. Yet Marcus Aurelius does not merely survive these trials. He transforms them into wisdom. In his private journal, never intended for publication, he records his thoughts. These become known as the Meditations, perhaps the most profound document ever written by someone in power. Here we see the most powerful man on earth reminding himself that he is mortal, that his power is temporary, that his duty is to serve rather than to be served. Remember that very little disturbs the equilibrium of a well-ordered mind, he writes while his empire convulses around him. He faces each crisis by returning to Stoic principles. When generals bring news of defeat, he responds with calm planning rather than rage. When courtiers flatter him, he remembers that he is merely dust that will soon return to dust. Marcus Aurelius dies on campaign, still fighting for the empire he never wanted to rule. But his legacy is not measured in military victories. He proves that power and wisdom can coexist, that philosophy is not mere academic exercise, but practical guidance for life's greatest challenges. Rome falls, but Stoicism does not die with it. As Christianity spreads across Europe, something remarkable happens. The new faith finds unexpected allies in Stoic principles. Early Christian theologians like Augustine discover that Stoic emphasis on virtue, duty, and acceptance of suffering aligns perfectly with Christian teaching. But Stoicism faces its greatest test during the medieval period. As Europe plunges into darkness, ancient wisdom is forgotten. Monasteries preserve some texts, but the living tradition nearly disappears. For nearly 1,000 years, Stoicism survives like embers beneath ash, kept alive by scattered manuscripts and whispered teachings, yet something this powerful cannot be completely suppressed. In the Renaissance, scholars rediscover classical texts. Stoic ideas begin to resurface, often disguised within Christian theology. The Protestant work ethic bears unmistakable Stoic DNA. The emphasis on personal responsibility, on accepting God's will while working diligently in one's calling, echoes the teachings of Marcus Aurelius and Epictetus. When Thomas Jefferson drafts the Declaration of Independence, he draws on many sources. But one influence remains hidden in plain sight: the idea that life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness are inalienable rights reflects a fundamentally Stoic understanding of human nature. The pursuit of happiness, Jefferson means, is the pursuit of virtue, exactly what the ancient Stoics taught. George Washington embodies Stoic principles without necessarily naming them. His farewell to his officers at Fraunces Tavern, his voluntary surrender of power, his steady leadership through impossible circumstances, these actions flow from the same source that guided Marcus Aurelius. Benjamin Franklin's methodical approach to self-improvement reads like a practical guide to Stoic discipline. But it is in the face of slavery that American Stoicism reveals both its power and its limitations. Frederick Douglass, born into bondage, discovers that education is the path to mental freedom even when physical freedom remains impossible. His autobiography reads like a Stoic meditation on maintaining dignity and purpose under oppression. Yet the same philosophy that gives him strength is sometimes used by others to justify passive acceptance of injustice. This paradox reveals something crucial about Stoicism. It is a tool, not a destination. Like any powerful tool, it can be used for good or ill, for resistance or resignation. The 20th century breaks humanity in ways no previous age could imagine. 2 world wars, the Holocaust, nuclear weapons, Traditional sources of meaning collapse under the weight of unprecedented horror. Yet in the midst of this darkness, Stoicism returns with new relevance. Viktor Frankl, a Holocaust survivor and psychiatrist, develops logotherapy based on insights that echo ancient Stoicism. In the concentration camps, he observes that those who survive are not necessarily the physically strongest, but those who maintain meaning and purpose regardless of circumstances. His book, Man's Search for Meaning, becomes one of the most influential works of the century, though he never explicitly calls himself a Stoic. Admiral James Stockdale, shot down over North Vietnam, spent 7 years as a prisoner of war. Tortured repeatedly, kept in solitary confinement, he survives by applying lessons learned from Epictetus. "I never lost faith in the end of the story," he later writes. "I never doubted not only that I would get out, but also that I would prevail in the end and turn the experience into the defining event of my life, which, in retrospect, I would not trade." This is pure Stoicism in action. Focusing on what you can control, accepting what you cannot, finding meaning in suffering itself. Today, Stoicism experiences its greatest revival since ancient Rome. Silicon Valley executives study Marcus Aurelius. Professional athletes hire coaches versed in Stoic principles. Cognitive behavioral therapy, one of the most effective forms of modern psychotherapy, directly descends from Stoic emotional training. But why now? What makes an ancient philosophy so relevant to our hyper-connected age? The answer lies in understanding what has not changed about human nature. We still face uncertainty. We still suffer loss. We still struggle with emotions that threaten to overwhelm us. We still must choose, moment by moment, how to respond to events beyond our control. The difference is scale and speed. Social media amplifies our emotional reactions. 24-hour news cycles create artificial urgency about events we cannot influence. The pace of change accelerates beyond human adaptation. In this environment, Stoic principles become not just helpful but essential for psychological survival. Modern science validates what the Stoics discovered through pure reasoning. Neuroscientist Antonio Damasio's research on decision-making confirms that emotion and reason are not opposites but partners. The prefrontal cortex, the brain region responsible for executive function, operates exactly as the Stoics described the ruling faculty of the mind. Studies of meditation, particularly mindfulness practices, show measurable changes in brain structure. Regular practitioners develop thicker prefrontal cortices and smaller amygdalae, literally rewiring their brains for better emotional regulation. This is precisely what Stoic daily practices were designed to accomplish. Research on post-traumatic growth reveals that people who find meaning in suffering often emerge stronger than before their trauma. They develop greater appreciation for life, deeper relationships, and more robust personal philosophies. This process mirrors the Stoic concept of transforming obstacles into opportunities. Positive psychology, pioneered by Martin Seligman, emphasizes character strengths and virtues that contribute to human flourishing. The 4 cardinal virtues identified by this research, wisdom, courage, humanity, and temperance, align remarkably with the 4 Stoic virtues of wisdom, courage, justice, and temperance. But Stoicism has always carried a shadow. Critics argue that it promotes emotional suppression, that it leads to passive acceptance of injustice, that it creates cold, unfeeling individuals disconnected from their humanity. These criticisms miss the mark, but they point to real dangers in misunderstanding Stoic teaching. True Stoicism is not about suppressing emotions, but understanding them. It is not about passive acceptance, but strategic response. It is not about disconnection, but proper attachment. The Stoic sage cares deeply about justice, loves family and friends, feels grief at loss. But these emotions inform rather than control their actions. They experience the full spectrum of human feeling while maintaining the freedom to choose their response. However, popular misinterpretations of Stoicism can indeed create problems. The stiff upper lip mentality, the toxic masculinity that confuses emotional intelligence with emotional numbness, the fatalistic acceptance that prevents necessary action. These distortions of Stoic principle cause genuine harm. Stoicism spreads beyond its Western origins to find unexpected resonance in other cultures. Buddhist concepts of detachment and acceptance share common ground with Stoic principles. Hindu ideas about Dharma parallel Stoic notions of cosmic duty. Confucian emphasis on virtue and social responsibility echoes Stoic ethics. This cross-cultural appeal suggests that Stoicism touches something fundamental about human nature that transcends specific historical or cultural contexts. It speaks to universal human experiences, the inevitability of loss, the challenge of uncertainty, the need for meaning in the face of mortality. Contemporary Stoic communities span the globe, connected by digital networks that would have amazed ancient practitioners. Online forums discuss daily applications of Stoic principles. Apps provide guided exercises in Stoic reflection. Conferences bring together practitioners from dozens of countries and professions. At its core, Stoicism is a spiritual practice, though it requires no belief in gods or afterlife. The central exercise is what the Stoics called the view from above, imagining yourself from the perspective of eternity, seeing your current troubles as tiny parts of a vast cosmic order. Marcus Aurelius writes, "Remember how brief life is, how vast the universe. To be remembered forever or even for a short time means nothing. This is not nihilism but liberation. If your individual existence is so brief and small, why waste it on anger, fear, or petty concerns?" The daily practices of Stoicism create what modern psychology calls psychological flexibility, the ability to adapt your behavior to serve your values regardless of internal or external circumstances. Morning reflection sets intentions for the day. Evening review examines actions taken and lessons learned. Throughout the day, the practitioner returns repeatedly to fundamental questions. What is under my control here? How can I respond with virtue? What would the ideal version of myself do? We stand at another moment of historical crisis. Climate change threatens civilization itself. Political polarization fractures societies. Technological disruption outpaces human adaptation. Economic inequality reaches levels not seen since the fall of Rome. In this environment, Stoicism offers not escape, but engagement, a way to remain rational and effective when everything seems to be falling apart. But Stoicism alone is not enough. The ancient Stoics lived in societies built on slavery and imperial conquest. They developed profound insights into individual psychology while remaining blind to systemic injustice. Modern Stoicism must grapple with these limitations while preserving its essential insights. The question facing contemporary practitioners is whether Stoicism can evolve beyond its origins to address collective as well as individual challenges. Can Stoic principles guide not just personal behavior, but social policy? Can the wisdom that helped individuals endure oppression also help societies eliminate it? Marcus Aurelius dies at 58, worn out by plague, war, and the enormous burden of absolute power. His final words, according to legend, are, "Go to the rising sun, for I am already setting." But his real last testament is written in his meditations, a record of one human being's attempt to live with wisdom, courage, and compassion in a world that offered him every excuse to do otherwise. That testament remains unfinished. Every person who chooses to respond to adversity with virtue rather than vice continues writing it. Every individual who takes responsibility for their thoughts and actions rather than blaming circumstances adds another chapter. Every human being who recognizes their connection to all other human beings honors its central insight. Stoicism survives because it addresses the permanent human condition. We will always face uncertainty. We will always lose what we love. We will always choose, moment by moment, what kind of people we become through our responses to these inevitable experiences. The philosophy born in ancient Athens, refined in imperial Rome, preserved through medieval darkness and reborn in every age since, offers the same promise it always has. Not that life will be easy, but that you can face whatever comes with dignity intact and wisdom growing. What would happen if 1 billion people truly understood that they controlled their responses to circumstances, not the circumstances themselves? What kind of world would emerge if human beings stopped wasting energy on things they cannot change and focused entirely on what they can? In our age of anxiety and outrage, of viral emotions and manufactured crises, could an ancient philosophy hold the key to humanity's next evolution? The answer to that question remains unwritten. It awaits your choice.